Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing in the world of Facebook? Hopefully you survived the 4th of July holidays and hopefully you had a lot of fun and you got to see friends and family and got to enjoy a special day and things were safe and enjoyed some good food and fireworks. I know we certainly did. We had a really fun afternoon and evening with our friends Brad and Yaz Inman. Brad is the guru for real estate media around the world, and Yaz cooked an incredible Southern All-American 4th of July dinner. It was great. We had lots of fun, and our friend Eilif is here visiting from Norway, so he got to, this is his third trip to LA, so he got to enjoy real traditional American food in his first 4th of July. That's kind of exciting to be a foreigner from Norway, of all places, and get to enjoy a 4th of July traditional dinner. So hopefully you all had a great time. Where you all checking in from? I see my friend Elaine is here. Teresa, hey Teresa. Lisa Belmonte, love it. All my good friends. Hey Teresa Congolese, Mark Riddell, wow, I haven't seen you in a while. But thank you all for joining today and checking in and saying hello. Hope you had a good, fun 4th of July. So I wanted to talk a little bit about tear downs, historic properties, properties designed by famous architects. This question does come up quite frequently. And what's interesting about the LA real estate market, since the market has gone crazy the last 10 or so years, there have been really a tremendous amount of tear downs. I would say in some areas, 8 to 9 out of every 10 properties are being torn down. People are paying huge amounts of money for land to tear down and build new houses. And a lot of reasons for that. You know, a lot of construction went on in LA. First of all, LA started, LA is only about 100 years old. Beverly Hills had its 100-year anniversary in 2017. LA was founded in the late 1800s, really started flourishing around the turn of the century. So not a lot of old properties, although we do occasionally, very occasionally, see homes from the late 1800s around in certain historic districts near downtown LA. We actually own a property that's from 1917, which is pretty rare. And so there's been a lot of tear downs, and a lot of neighborhoods on the west side, like Beverly Hills, was kind of established in 1917. In the 1920s, 1930s, after the war, there was a lot of construction that went on in the 1940s in the west side of LA. So unfortunately, in today's world, the style of homes and the way people lived in the 1940s is very, very different than it is today. First of all, people were not having as many children. People weren't living the lifestyle as they do today. So the lifestyle changes, and it's a little bit sad to see that, but it does change the dynamics of what's going on. So, for example, in our area, 9 out of 10 homes have been all torn down, and the land is worth more than the house. Even houses that I've sold that were completely remodeled, 3-4 years later, the clients move out of town, they are sold, and they're leveled and for new construction. So the bottom line of this is I recently listed a property that's not historic from a perspective of it's not a historic landmark, meaning it's not a registered historic landmark under the federal government. But it is a famous house under a couple of reasons. Number one, a very, very famous architect, Paul Williams, designed it. It was also once the home of Jane Wyman and Ronald Reagan back in the 1930s. So the 3 historical points of this home are Jane Wyman, Ronald Reagan, probably Ronald Reagan more so than Jane Wyman, and the famous architect Paul Williams. So having had this house open a few times, one of the first questions buyers ask is, can the house be torn down? Can they make any changes? Are there any rules against those kinds of things for that kind of home? So it depends on if you're Beverly Hills or LA, and also neighborhoods. We have basically county rules, federal regulations, city regulations. So for example, in the city of Beverly Hills in 2016, they adopted an ordinance called the Master Architect List. And they compiled a list of master architects. That's probably, I don't know, maybe 40, actually more, maybe 65, 70 architects. And as an example, Paul Williams is on that list. So what that means is if you have a property or you buy a property in the city of Beverly Hills, and it is the architect of your home is on the Beverly Hills master list that was adopted a couple years ago, basically you cannot tear that down. So that's what goes on in the city of Beverly Hills. So my listing of the Paul Williams house, which is known as the Schuarger house, if that was in Beverly Hills, you would not be able to tear that house down. Now, it's located in Los Angeles. So Los Angeles has not adopted and does not have a master architect list. So what that means basically, since this house is not a historic landmark, meaning it's not gone through the process and been designated as a U.S. National Historic Landmark, there's no federal regulations. Where it's located is in the city of Los Angeles, so the city does not have any regulations against tearing down a home that's designed by a master architect. And this particular neighborhood called Little Holmby, even though they did attempt for a number of years to make it a historic preservation overlay zone, we have quite a few of those in LA. A historic preservation overlay zone means that that particular area has gone through the process through the city of Los Angeles and adopted rules where you basically can't tear down, you can't rebuild unless you follow certain guidelines. Or if you're in a homeowners association, and we do have a number of homeowners associations in LA, those homeowners associations have rules and regulations as well, but generally they don't really deal with historic landmarks or properties by famous architects. They just want you to follow the rules of the quote-unquote architectural look that the community wants to keep. So again, getting back to this specific property, done by a famous architect, once the home of a former president and a famous actress, but again, no historical designation, no city regulations, and there's no historic preservation zone in that community because the community voted it down. So basically what that means is if you wanted to, you could feasibly or theoretically tear that property down. Now, it would be a great tragedy because Paul Williams is one of the finest architects in the last 100 years in the United States. And he's one of the 5 or 6 architects that won the gold medal award from the AIA posthumously in 2017. It would have been nice if he won it during his lifetime, but he did not. And he was the first African-American architect to receive that award. So really, and he's truly an incredible architect. I've always admired his work and designs. So again, in this particular case of this home, because there's no city rules, there's no historic preservation overlay zone rules, there's no master architect list from the city, you could feasibly tear it down. Now, luckily, of all the buyers that have shown interest, thus far, very few have ever discussed tearing it down. But they have concerns about, can they change the facade? Can they make major renovations? Because it's LA, you can pretty much do what you want. And now, if this were, 6 blocks east in the city of Beverly Hills, all bets are off. Now, there is another thing that I have advised buyers about when they're buying a home by a noted architect in the city of Los Angeles. Even though there are no rules, the city of LA does have a Cultural Heritage Commission, and we also have a nonprofit organization called the LA Conservancy. So there have been a few cases that we're aware of, and as a top realtor, I need to know these things so I can advise my clients accordingly. There was a Paul Williams home in Brentwood, nothing particularly substantially unique or special. Mine of the Jane Wyman house is a beautiful home architecturally. But that home, the owner was on a big property, so he was going to tear it down. So he filed his permit, which you have to file a permit, post it on the property. I forget how long it has to remain there, but it shows it's a demolition permit, basically. So what happens is a demolition permit is posted. Then the neighbors see, oh my God, there's a demolition permit on my house next door, on the house next door, the house behind me. But neighbors get concerned. They don't want their neighborhood to change. They don't want to deal with tear downs and construction. So there's a couple cases I know. One hired a lawyer and fought the demo permit, was able to stop it. Another couple cases, the LA Conservancy stepped in, and it's a nonprofit organization that we donate money to, and many people do, to conserve LA architecture. And if they choose to decide as a conservancy to fight you tearing down that property, they can do so, and they have done so, and they have won in certain cases. As an example, currently, the LA Times building just recently sold, and there are plans to demolish the property and tear it down and build a whole new complex there in downtown. And there's a lot of that going on in downtown. However, the Cultural Heritage Commission stepped in, even though there's no laws. They stepped in last week and filed a notice to the city to to make that a historic landmark building. So if that passes and the city commissioner's office does decide it is a historic landmark, then all bets are off. The new developer will not be able to tear that down and build his new project. So again, there's really no cut and dry rules in LA. Beverly Hills is a little bit more set in their ways, but basically in the city of LA, there are no cut and dry rules. So on a case-by-case basis, when a buyer is looking at a property or a seller is going to sell their property, we have this conversation about, you know, one of my first questions, if I note there's some architectural significance, then right away I will ask the question. I will do some research, see if there's any information online about the original architect of the house and where it's located to help advise that seller of the value and the concerns or the issues that may come up in selling that type of home. And one interesting factor that there have been many discussions on, and there's no real rule about it, but the question is, when you have a home that's really beautifully designed by a very famous, well-known architect, such as Paul Williams or Wallace Neff or Koenig, or gosh, there's so many wonderful architects. But if you have a home that's listed or designed by a famous architect and the architectural purity is there, how much more is that home worth than a home next door that's not done by a famous architect? So in looking back at historical data of homes of famous architects that have sold, we've determined that basically an architectural home by a famous architect will sell for anywhere from 10 to 15% premium over a home that is not done by a significant architect. So it's kind of an interesting little side. I'm not getting a lot of comments here, so I'm looking through. I guess the internet may be a little bit slow. So good morning, Teresa. So I'm just curious, do you guys have any questions about historical homes, architectural homes, master architects? Hello, New York, Chris. Hey, Jim Emery, nice to see you. Christopher Harriman. You always know everything about all these houses in LA, Christopher. I'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback about all this. Hi, Liv. How are you? I mentioned you earlier in our fun times yesterday at at the party. So anyways, just wanted to share that little bit of information because it is a question that comes up quite often. And a lot of people are tearing down homes. As an example, across from the house that I sold, that I have listed currently, the Ronald Reagan house, is a house I sold about a year ago now. And that was done by an architect named Robert Finkelhor. He was not a very famous architect, but he did design about 8 or 9 pretty well-known buildings here in the Los Angeles area. It was in Los Angeles in Holmby Hills on Mapleton Drive. Beautiful house from the 1920s. It was designed for, oh shoot, I forgot the guy's name, but he was the first movie studio owner in Hollywood. So a lot of Hollywood history. It was the Mommy Dearest home. A lot of Hollywood celebrities hung out there, and the owner was a very famous founder in Hollywood. So no historic notice. It was not a very famous architect, and unfortunately, that was a beautiful house. It just simply did not fit the lifestyle today. Huge property, 1.68 acres, which is very large. The house was about 6,000 square feet. And on that sized lot on that street today, most of the homes are 20 to 35, 36,000 square feet. There's even a house down the block that's over 52,000 square feet. So unfortunately, if it's not a historic home and it's not in Beverly Hills, most often these houses are going to be torn down. So that one I sold, we sold as a tear down for $18.8 million. And the buyer also bought the house next door that was owned by the Playboy company. It was one of Hugh Hefner's homes, and it was one of his bunny homes. It was a 1960s mid-century, nothing significant. It wasn't designed by a famous architect. So the purchaser bought the 2 properties together, paid $32 million for the 2 lots, and has now torn them down. Is going to be building a 36,000 square foot house because they now have 3 acres. And that particular street, if you build a 36,000 square foot home, it's worth well over 100 million, maybe 150 million, depending on what you're building. So from a perspective of living today, simply the older homes don't work for today's lifestyle. For example, that house, the closets were tiny, the bathrooms were very small, didn't have high ceilings. So people today want huge walk-in closets. They want large open kitchens. They don't need 2, 3 staff rooms in the separate end of the house. So just a different world, 2017, 2018, than it was in the 1920s, 1930s, or 1940s. So hence, a lot of people are tearing down these homes. And as you drive through Bel Air, Beverly Hills, and the prime areas of Los Angeles, you will see home after home after home taken down to the studs or taken down to the dirt and leveled to build new construction. And even in just a regular neighborhood that you tear down for $2.5, $3 million, you build a new house. Maybe you had the old house that was 1,800, 2,000 square feet. The new houses are typically 5,000 to 8,000 square feet. That's the size buyers want today. So hence, they're torn down, and then you sell it for $5 million, $6 million, depending on what you finish up with. Yes, Eilif, you were at the Mommy Dearest house. I remember that last year. Was it last year? Yeah, a year and a half ago. And we had fun. We actually swam in the pool, right? In the Mommy Dearest pool. Hey, Jackie, how are you from El Dorado Hills? So I hope you enjoyed my little talk this morning about teardowns, historic homes, preservation. So again, the key is, I don't know what it's like in your town, but if you're going to buy in LA and you're looking to buy a teardown, make sure to hopefully hire me, someone who knows about this and can do the research and can help educate you on the pros and cons and knowing about that. So as I always tell my clients, if you're going to buy a famous architectural home in LA, even though there's no laws, just be prepared. You could potentially be stopped by preservation groups from doing what you want. That's just an unfortunate reality. It's a small chance, but it still could happen. So just wanted you to know that. Thought I'd share this day after 4th of July. And I'm just curious, how many of you are actually working today after the 4th of July? I know in real estate, I have a lot of clients in town. So I had to be here at 6:30 this morning, start making calls and emails. But a lot of my foreign clients are in town. They come from July 4th through kind of middle of August to visit, stay in their vacation homes and enjoy and look at other homes. So I had to be in early today. I got to work today, tomorrow, and hopefully not Saturday. Hey, Leslie, how are things in Kauai? If you guys are ever looking for a great rental property in Kauai, my friend Leslie Sherman, she has an amazing company that handles vacation rentals in Kauai. So she's on this chain. So if you think about Kauai, you want a vacation rental, let me know. I'll put you in touch with Leslie and she can help you out with that. So anyways, thanks for watching, guys. Again, I hope you had a great 4th of July. Back to work. I got to get back to doing what I need to do. Have a great day, and thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you all real soon. Bye now.